The flawed approach to investigating fraud at some company in Pickering, why interviewing loan officers could be the wrong step. When investigating complex fraud cases, such as the one involving some company in Pickering, it is crucial to have a methodical and strategic approach. However, the decision to focus on interviewing the loan officers who were involved in the fraudulent activities without realizing the deeper involvement of the company's leadership shows a major misunderstanding of how systemic fraud operates within a company. This article will explore why such a strategy is not only ineffective, but could even hinder the investigation. The fundamental flaw lies in the assumption that these loan officers are the perpetrators rather than victims of a much larger scam, orchestrated by the company's higher-ups, the real perpetrators, owners, and executives. Fraud within a company, especially a financial institution like some company in Pickering, is often a systemic issue. It is rarely just a few rogue employees acting alone. The higher-level individuals, whether owners or top executives, are typically the ones who create and enable the fraudulent system. Loan officers, for example, often operate under strict directives, needing to meet targets or quotas, and may be incentivized to approve loans that should not be approved. In many cases, they may not even fully understand the implications of their actions, or may be misled by the higher-ups about the legitimacy of the practices they are encouraged to engage in. Some do not care and will rob your family of everything. The fact that these loan officers may be complicit does not mean they are the originators of the fraud. They may simply be doing what they are told, often out of fear of losing their jobs or due to the company's toxic culture that rewards unethical behavior. By focusing solely on these lower-level employees, law enforcement risks failing to see the true scope of the fraud. Loan officers are likely coerced, not the masterminds. When investigating fraud, it's important to differentiate between employees who are actively involved in illegal activity and those who are coerced or manipulated into committing fraudulent acts. Loan officers might be in on the scam to some extent, but that doesn't make them the masterminds of the operation. These employees may not have the same understanding of the full-scale fraud as the executives who orchestrated it. Instead of merely questioning these loan officers, investigators should take a step back and consider the broader picture. Loan officers are often under intense pressure to meet certain performance metrics. If the company's leadership fosters a culture where hitting sales quotas is prioritized over ethical conduct, it's no wonder that loan officers would bend or break the rules. But these officers are usually doing so to protect their livelihood, not because they want to get involved in fraud. The bigger picture, a culture of deception. Focusing on individual loan officers is short-sighted. What police fail to realize is that these loan officers are likely victims of a much larger system of fraud. The fraud starts at the top, with owners and executives manipulating the processes to conceal the illegal activities from regulators, customers, and law enforcement. The officers who are being interviewed are often only following orders that might include falsifying documents, approving unqualified loans, or ignoring red flags of potential fraud. These loan officers may not fully realize the criminal implications of their actions, or may have been told that these practices are normal or acceptable within the company. What investigators must understand is that these officers are probably involved because of fear or financial pressure. They could be aware that their actions are wrong, but don't know how to escape the system they've been caught in. At the same time, the people who orchestrated the fraud, the owners and top-level executives, are usually far more aware of the criminal implications of their actions and often escape scrutiny. The flawed investigation tactics. By focusing too heavily on interviewing loan officers, the investigation falls into a trap of misunderstanding the hierarchical nature of corporate fraud. Investigators often fail to look at the bigger picture and miss crucial evidence that links the company's higher-ups to the fraud. Loan officers who are just doing their jobs are often poorly equipped to blow the whistle on fraudulent practices or to understand the true extent of what is happening. However, when law enforcement treats these officers as suspects, they may simply become defensive, further complicating the investigation. They may be unaware of how much they were manipulated into carrying out actions that align with the company's broader fraudulent schemes. Instead, law enforcement should focus on gathering evidence of the actions taken by the company's owners and top executives. Investigators should look at internal communications, emails, meeting notes, memos that might indicate the executives were actively encouraging or turning a blind eye to fraudulent activities, financial records that could reveal unusual loan approvals, false reporting, or discrepancies in accounts, performance metrics and incentives offered to loan officers that might have implicitly or explicitly encouraged fraudulent behavior. The investigation should target the leaders. The real criminals in this scenario are likely the owners and executives who created a corporate environment where employees felt pressured to engage in fraudulent activities to meet targets. By ignoring this, law enforcement risks scapegoating the employees who are themselves victims of a corrupt system. A more effective approach would be to focus on higher-level individuals, investigate the owners and executives who set up the fraudulent system and pushed loan officers into making unethical decisions. Identify how the fraud was perpetrated across multiple levels. Look for evidence of systematic fraud that could involve falsified loan approvals, hidden fees, or misleading customer information, all orchestrated by the leadership. Use forensic auditing. By carefully auditing the financials, investigators can uncover discrepancies or illegal activities that were conducted at the company's leadership level, rather than merely focusing on loan officers. Conclusion: a systemic problem requires a systemic solution. The investigation into fraud at some company in Pickering needs to be thorough, systematic, and focused on the bigger picture. Simply questioning loan officers will not uncover the full scope of the fraud. Police and investigators need to understand that these employees are likely a product of a broken system, not the root cause of the fraud. The masterminds behind such scams are often the company's owners or executives who create a culture of deception and manipulation. Until law enforcement shifts its focus to these higher-level individuals, the investigation will likely remain misguided, and the true perpetrators of the fraud will escape justice.